Good evening and welcome to Plain Talk. My name is Christopher Ram. Thank you for joining me on this Wednesday evening when we are going to discuss a number of regional and international issues, as well, of course, as domestic issues. You might have seen on the screen that we wanted to talk about the minimum wage and this rapidly accelerating economy. We have matters in the UK, we have matters in Brazil, and we had a couple of days ago a lawyer being arrested in Guyana. You had Letitia James, the Attorney General of the state of New York, getting deeply involved in matters relating to Guyana. So these are some, at least, of the issues we are going to discuss. Let's start. My guest is our friend Gerald Pereira. Always good to have you, Gerald.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Pleasure to be here.
We had Gopal, Dr. Nanda Gopal,
Yeah.
trade unionist, former Minister of Labour in the PPP government. He was once
General Secretary Nasi.
Nasi, but he was also opposed to the PPP
Yes.
with Asghar Ali,
But guard.
and he was also in Guard. No, the matter with Asghar Ali was different from Guard.
Yeah.
Guard was
that's
in the
right.
90s, that's
Guard,
correct.
correct.
It shows you, of course, the PPP's openness to persons. Sam Hines himself came out of Guard as
Yeah,
well.
that's right.
But
That's
Sam
right.
Hines never publicly opposed
Mhm.
the PPP as Gopal did.
Did. That's true. That's
Now-
true.
Gopal has called on the trade union movement to struggle for a minimum wage. I think he used the word decent, which suggests that what we have now is an indecent minimum
Correct.
wage.
Correct.
How did you interpret Gopal's statement?
Well, I listened. I read what he said, and I have Chris. I agree with what he said, and that the minimum wage is not a livable wage. But I have a problem with persons who, when they were in office in very key positions, did nothing or really speak up. But as you pointed out, and I do recall, yes.
He did, yes.
He did.
2013, we
Yeah.
had an increase.
But nevertheless,
It was not a substantial.
Yeah, correct. But I support what he's saying. I mean, I believe in the primacy of the nation, and I see it as paramount to parties and politics. And anyone who is standing up for those, the downtrodden, right, the poor and the oppressed, I and our organization will take a stand with them. We don't oppose for the sake of opposing, but I think it's we have a patriotic duty to join with him and press for that. I think all of us, civil society, political parties, small political parties, as well as other groups and so, and the trade union movement should rally around that call. Right?
It was interesting. He didn't call on the government to pay a living minimum. He
No.
called on the trade union movement to struggle for it.
To struggle for it. Well, the unions are sleeping. The unions in this country are sleeping, and I think there's a reason for that in a number of other countries too. There's trade union militancy in some countries, and maybe in the other countries of South America, in Latin America, we call Latin America, like in Brazil, and the unions are very militant. But in many other parts in the Commonwealth Caribbean, and even in places like Australia, New Zealand, and those places, the unions have taken a battering since the implementation of neoliberal economics, because they went into this contract, you know, contract arrangement and so, and the casualization of work and labor and all of that. And the unions took a battering, you know, the unions took a battering. And we've seen that here, that unions are not as vibrant as during the 70s.
That's a kind term, is it? That they're not as vibrant.
Yeah, being kind to
They're absolutely impotent. and-
impotent. The unions are doing nothing.
It's
And
the
trade
worst
union
state
leaders,
of the trade union movement.
yeah,
I mean, the PSU, where is it?
where is it?
I
The
think
PSU, the Guyana Labor Union, the Trade Union Congress in general, and the other group, the breakaway, the one, FETOG,
yeah.
you know. I just think they're just pandering to the politicians.
You know, I think, however, in criticizing trade union leaders,
Yeah. And it's
one
nothing
needs
personal. Yeah.
one needs to make a distinction
Mhm.
with Norris Ritter.
Yeah.
He has really been struggling,
I've seen Norris on the picket lines a few times, and so yeah.
and he's got an excellent agreement with Sol, for example,
Yes.
minimum
The gap.
of 122,000.
Mhm.
But why? Look, we are boasting about the fastest growing economy and all of these canards,
Yeah.
and here it is. We are told that 48% of your people have a poverty issue. How do you explain that contradiction?
Well, you know that an economy could show extensive growth rate and all of that, but it doesn't translate on the ground in terms of what people, you know, if you still measure economic performance by the traditional bourgeois economics or class economics, you've seen it. I mean, look at Brazil. Brazil produces from a Pinta missile. Brazil is an industrialized country and so, but there's tremendous poverty in Brazil. There's tremendous poverty, unemployment, and all of that. So an economy could be showing that growth, but the benefits of that, it does not reach the people, because at the end of the day, it's all about the type of economic model we have and the type of system that we're operating with. I mean, look, when you look at oil and gas, look at Nigeria. Nigeria has been producing oil and gas.
Ghana.
Ghana.
We
And look
brought
at it.
Ghana
I
to
went
tell
to Ghana
us
years ago, and when you go to certain places in Ghana, all you saw is huge craters in the ground, and the companies just move off, right? You got Ghanaians who will tell you that they've never tasted a bar of chocolate, and they produce chocolate. They produce chocolate, but the price for a bar of chocolate is more than what they probably earn for 2 days.
what do you say about the economic policy? How do you describe this economic policy? And I don't want us to go off on this minimum wage because, look, it literally is bread and butter.
Yes.
It's people's very survival, their
And-
existence, their children's education,
Yeah.
putting food on the table.
Yeah.
What kind of system we have here?
Well,
You have a government that claims
Mhm.
to be caring.
well, you know of any government who that would say they're not caring? I mean,
Well,
Any
at least some of them
government
don't. They don't necessarily boast that they're caring.
yeah. Chris, you know, when you look at the world, and we come back here, when you look at what's happening in the world, we're seeing, no one can deny that we're witnessing a crisis of capitalism, right? Wealth is being concentrated in fewer and fewer hands. I think the top 345 persons on planet Earth, the total wealth is more than how many countries in the global south, what we refer to as the third world. And when you come back to Guyana at this level here, there is that particular model at neoliberal economics, right, has created a system where we have seen this huge inequality in wealth and income. And at the end of the day, that is what from 1993 to now, successive governments from high to right down to President Ali, we've been running with that model. right? We've been running with that.
You know, you talk
Now
about,
we're going to build, they're giving permission for hospitals. We're building so many hotels, and you have private hospitals and all that. What about healthcare as a fundamental human right?
we have contracted out.
Yes,
This government has contracted out healthcare
yes,
to the private sector.
the
the
private sector.
rapacious,
Yeah.
avaricious
Vicious.
private sector.
Correct.
And has given them
That's
tax
right.
exemption.
Tax exemptions. Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
It's a license
And
to
they
exploit.
believe that by doing that, that will trickle down.
Well, you're talking about trickle down. What about Kwesi Kwarteng?
Well,
Our brother from
Ghana, Ghanaian roots. And you know, this we were talking about earlier. That's one of the problems with, look, race, ethnicity is a powerful dynamic, right? Race is a powerful dynamic, but class is a powerful dynamic too. And one of the things that we don't pay attention to, we get caught up in, like in Guyana, Indian, African, and we just ignore the class factor. Look at Kwarteng. Here is a man with Ghanaian roots, an African, who is a member of the Conservative Party and belongs to a particular faction of the Conservative Party that's very elitist and are part of a very elite club. Good? And the thing about what people need to know is that, you know, white faces, I think is Franklin Fraser wrote that in his book, The Great African American Sociologist.
Yeah, of course, you
Franklin
have
Fraser.
black skin, white mask again as well.
That's Fanon, black skin, white mask, correct.
Frantz Fanon.
But he said black faces in high places doesn't translate to black economic power or black power, you know. And Kwarteng and the white supremacy is clever. You can have, look, it is better to have someone of Indian descent, right, or Sri Lankan. The three top conservatives, immigrants in the Conservative Party, are all their parents are migrated to.
Well, you know.
So you get them to lead the charge against
well, you know,
immigration.
well, you know what I find most interesting? The Conservative Party boasts that they have the most diverse
Yeah.
cabinet. But look who they got. Suella Braverman.
Yes.
You've got Cleverly.
Yeah.
You've got a Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. They are not.
Who said he has no working class friends?
He
Never
could
mix,
not
yeah.
name one.
Yeah. And his wife is very wealthy, extremely
And a
wealthy.
tax dodger as well.
Yeah. Yep. And his wife is the daughter of one of India's top
Millionaire.
millionaire.
No, but the thing is, you have somebody like Suella Braverman,
Yes.
who said in the House of Commons
Very
yesterday
hostile to immigrants.
that people, it's an invasion.
In invasion,
This
yeah.
war-
Song
and-
like Enoch Powell.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ah.
Song like Enoch
Rivers of
Powell.
Blood.
Rivers of Blood. Yeah.
You remember that?
National, yes, they are. Yeah. Enoch Powell.
But Cleverly,
Yeah.
another black,
Yeah.
Kwarteng.
Yeah.
And you know, the funny thing is, Rishi
And
Sunak,
probably the worst chancellor they had at the exchequer.
Who?
Exchequer.
Kwarteng?
Yeah, Kwarteng.
well, he matched the worst prime minister
Yeah.
we've ever had.
Yeah.
But you know, they were buddy friends, bosom friends. And he was fired by her for doing what
Yeah.
she wanted him to do.
That's by the prime minister.
Yes,
Yes.
Liz Truss.
The Truss fired him
That was,
because they were very close.
they were close in 2012. They wrote a
20 yeah,
paper.
2012.
They-
2012.
Yeah,
Yep.
anticipated all
That
of this.
document. That was correct.
This guy
2012.
was, Kwarteng was, I mean, the guy was lost. But
Yep.
I'm bothered when we think that because people are black, and that includes brown and all of that they will have any kind of sympathy
Yeah. Yeah.
for the working
For the
class.
one.
It's almost as though, look,
But
we
the
made
color of
it-
the mind and the color of the skin are two different things.
yeah, but it's almost
Yeah.
as though I work harder. You black people are lazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we're gonna wait to see what Sunak does
Yeah.
when he comes with this financial paper later this month.
Yeah.
He's thinking of cutting benefits,
Definitely.
and he's still committed to lowering taxes.
Lower, yes, he said that. He said that. He said that.
But you know, I think at one level, people celebrated Rishi Sunak's ascension to number 10, the occupant of the residence of the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Um,
As he was heading down there was the crowd outside to who they were booing him, heckling him. So
mhm.
I don't know. I'm not sure if it's on the way he was elected or whether they were members of the
Well, he was
far
not
right.
elected. He was not really,
Not really
elected.
That's right.
because,
It's amazing.
Because Liz Truss beat him in the election, which was
That's true.
open to the Conservatives.
Yeah, which was open to yeah.
His was not even open to the Conservatives.
That's right.
The fact is, yes, more than 51% of the members of parliament on the government side supported him
Yeah.
against Johnson and against Peggy Mordaunt.
Yeah.
But he was not elected,
No,
and
he was
one
not.
wonders if that
Yeah,
had
it's
gone to the
amazing.
people again,
Yeah. He would have lost.
whether he had to, if he had to come up against that madman, Bojo, Boris Johnson, whether he
That
would have
man is
won.
yeah.
And look, well, we see he has done a U-turn himself on the question of his attendance at COP 27,
Yeah, yeah.
COP
Climate
26, no, is it?
26.
26.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know. He has actually demoted. This man doesn't care about the environment.
No, no.
He
Because
actually.
those guys actually believe Bolsonaro's like that, you know.
That's another madman.
Yeah, yeah. Trump is the same thing. They actually believe this whole
Well,
thing about
Bolsonaro is the
environment is all
Trump of the South,
a
isn't
lie.
it?
Yeah,
He's the Trump of
it's
the
all
South.
conspiracy and it's all, you know.
No, but this gentleman, Rishi Sunak,
Yeah.
he not only said he was too busy to go to the environmental
Yeah,
World
that is what he
Environmental-
actually, he didn't go.
No, he has changed his mind.
Mine. That's recent.
Yes, he changed his mind yesterday. He announced that. But you know what makes? He said he was too busy.
Yeah.
I don't know if he thinks as prime minister he's still the chancellor of the Exchequer.
Yeah, yeah.
Jeremy Hunt has that task.
Yeah.
Let him come up with set your priorities, set your policy,
That's right,
your broad
that's right.
framework. But also, Rishi Sunak has excluded Alok Sharma, who did such a fantastic job
Yeah.
chairing the meeting in Glasgow.
Glasgow. I remember that.
He has excluded him from cabinet.
Yeah, he's out. He's out.
I mean, this guy,
He's
Sunak,
out.
something is.
Yeah, and Sharma was part of one of these think tanks they have in the Conservative Party. Because you know you have the Monday Club and you
Yeah.
got the what's the one that he belonged to?
Yeah, you have the 1922 committee and so on.
Yeah.
But
But
The-
Britain is in serious. Britain is facing a serious crisis. You know, there are many homes. I was reading something where many homes can't provide their. There's a problem with not just the paying the bills, the energy bills. They got to turn off the power and so. But food.
you know, that's true. You have footballers
Yeah.
got to say, look, I want these children to get a meal.
Yeah. It's really.
During the period of the COVID, people went
Mm.
without food.
Well, at the time now we get the thing now with the removal of visas to travel.
Mhm. Well, baby, who gonna go? Who gonna go?
I don't know. That's Britain.
But you know, we support, we see these things happening. You see Bibi Netanyahu,
Yeah. in
another
Israel.
criminal.
Yeah, he won. And he get the support of the party, Jewish strength.
The right wing, yeah.
We call them the Kahanis after Rabbi Meir Kahane,
Yeah.
who said that a dog thing is more valuable than a Jew.
Not a Jew?
Than an Arab.
Arab,
He
yes.
said an Arab, yeah.
Where Arabs are worse than second
he
class.
called- yeah. But Israel is a rogue state. Israel does what it likes.
But-
Hell, it doesn't, and it gets away with it.
Well, in my view, Gerald, those things are there for us in Guyana to see, and yet we're not learning any of those lessons.
Well,
How do you explain what has happened?
Chris,
What's
you
happening?
know, it's amazing. You would know this. I remember the days when there was no TV, no internet, but I remember in the early 70s, there were a group of young men used to get together and we'll have big political discussions. Freddie Kissoon was part of that.
Which one of those groups?
They had different groups.
Yes,
Brindley
they did.
Ben had a youth arm. You had the Revolutionary Socialist Student Alliance, the YSM,
Ratoon.
and Ratoon, and so right, the movement against oppression,
Yeah.
right? But they had young men, and we knew each other, and we used to get together at a place, Alfred Yadunat,
Yes. Mhm,
he
mhm.
returned
Yeah,
from
right.
Germany,
Yeah.
in South Road, or North Road.
You had a
Yeah.
group in
Yeah.
Rob Street as well.
Yeah, and in Rob Street. And we would discuss Marx and Lenin and people like Vance Packard and Herbert Marcuse and the Black Panthers. We had that, and we were informed. Now, with all the internet, the TV, listen to the political discussion in this country.
Is there any?
You listen to some programs that people are running, both here and outside. It's cost down politics. It's cost out. There is no politics. We say politics of meaning. No, the young people cannot say, well, look, I tune in and learn something. It's about tit for tat. PPP, up new. PPP, up new. And I mean, I have never batted for the PPP. But I'll get credit where it is due. When I listen to some of the opposition commentators, it's better they keep quiet. Ridiculous.
Well, that's in fact a tragedy.
Absolutely
Because then-
ridiculous.
Then who will hold the government accountable? Who will hold its feet to the fire?
But that's right. Listen to the parliamentary. Listen to what goes on in parliament. Is any debate? Look at parliament. You're snatching the mace and there's a big views out and cuss out and all that. Like Burnham or Jagan or that Boise Ramkaran and those men. Right? When the days of
Jagan had
parliament.
he had his own experiences with the mace.
Yes. Well, he tumbled the law books.
And
So-
Mackie Hammer.
But Desmond Hoyt picked up an ashtray and threw the ashtray at Mackie Hamid. You remember that?
Yes.
Mr. Hoyt was a very hot-headed person,
Especially at certain moments.
Yes, I know Mr. Hoyt. But he didn't like me. He always saw me as too radical, whatever that means.
But you talk about the young people.
Yeah.
Are the older people any better?
I think the older, well, which older people you're talking about? The activists, the burnt out ones?
Well, I
politi-
guess are we talking about ourselves as well?
Chris, when you listen to some persons, I like to give you an example of this. You remember, I'm getting to this point, you remember when Burnham was alive, we had this thing where we were wearing the short jack.
Mm-hmm.
We call it the official one. We had two, the ordinary and the other official one,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we were talking about decolonizing our tastes and our wear, right?
Mhm.
And all of that. The moment Burnham died,
That
and
died
they
with him.
put Burnham down, everybody went back to suit and tie. Do you remember?
Mhm.
Mr. Hoyt, Mr. Green, everybody in suit and tie. So, what's the conclusion? Whatever. I honestly believe that many of those people around Burnham didn't believe in what Burnham was doing. I think they admire Burnham. He was a great statesman. He was a great speaker, and he had the leadership qualities, and so they admired him, right? And they rallied around him. But I don't think that they were really committed to what he wanted to do. I don't even think they understand what Burnham was trying to do. In terms, ideologically, I don't think that. Because how do you explain the moment Burnham died? You shifted, look the party, you tossed out the Declaration of Sophia, all the principles of the original PNC and all of that.
That was Desmond Hoyt.
Yeah, and you went down. And Umay went in this country, right? Umay rooted this country, said they never make a profit. Good, so it was a charity they were running, but they're back. And they now discovered the gold that they found is twice the amount of our external debt. So they're back. And foreign capital, that's one of the problems. And it's the main problem in this country. The foreign capital is rooting this country, is not paying anything.
Well,
They call it as an investment, is plunder by invitation.
Well,
Plunder by invitation.
the PPP and the PNC are no different in that.
Two sides of the same coin.
You know, I keep saying.
Two sides of the same coin.
I keep saying this. I wish people would read Jagan and AUC Kwayana's contribution in the Parliament
Yeah.
on the Production, Petroleum Exploration and Production Act. No matter what, I've tried to persuade people. I have a soft copy, I have a hard copy.
Yeah,
I
I
beg
got to-
people to read it. And Jagan talks about how the Americans going to come and rob us
Yeah.
of our oil,
Yes.
and we're gonna
Interesting, I must check.
bow down in front of the Americans.
Uh-huh.
He said, "But we will get oil when the Americans say we got oil," which is exactly what
Exactly,
happened
well,
in
yeah.
2015.
Yeah.
But then look who gave the Americans the biggest contract and the
Yeah.
most lopsided contract in the
Contract,
world.
yeah.
It's Janet Jagan.
Yeah. And this is a woman who professed to be anti-imperialist and had Marxist Leninist orientation. It's sad. But the same thing happened. You know what's sad, Chris? After the collapse of the Soviet bloc, right? All of those former self-proclaimed Marxist Leninist regimes in Africa and all that, they went straight into neoliberal policies. And look at Angola. You imagine
Oh,
the
Lord.
Cubans going to Angola
And
to
died.
fight Cubans. I mentioned that in Cuba.
Hundreds.
Hundreds of
Hundreds of
Cubans
them.
died to defeat the South African forces there.
They are
Only
the- They are the ones who prolonged the resistance to the invasion by the Americans in Grenada as well.
Yep. And the Cubans went there and died for who? For Isabella de Santos.
Yeah.
The daughter of a former president who was a member of the MPLA to become one of the wealthiest women in Africa.
But you know, we got to be careful though. I mean, we can enjoy a conversation like that. What are we saying to viewers looking at this program, however? What's the
That
lesson?
there are lessons to be learned, and that one is, as you pointed out earlier, we got to this thing here with the APNU and the PPP. They're not, Chris. They're not going to press for renegotiation. Norton ran from the R word, there was a joke about that.
Mhm.
The CEO of ExxonMobil pointed out before the elections that both the leadership of both parties told him they will not seek they will not push for
So
said
Jagdeo
that.
and Ali and all of them were lying at the time when
Well, he said that. It was in the papers. He said that they told him. Now, the only time Exxon will give Guyana anything extra is they got to get up a morning and say, well, look, we give you something. But for the political leaders to do it, it's not going to happen because these guys are it's a contest between the political elites of the two parties to show the imperialists who is better at managing this neo plantation called Guyana. Mr. Norton went to the States, and when he came back, they asked him who you met with, and so he refused to answer. Of course, he met with the officials in the State Department. You have to go up there and get your baptism. So they're not going to push it. And when you have people like Mr. Lal, Glenn Lal, and Jerry Jai Lal, and all of these people hitting Exxon, and then they say, well, look, Biden is saying, even Biden is going after Exxon. Biden said, look, I'm a capitalist. The row between Exxon and Biden, these guys need to understand what's going on. It's like two thieves break into a house, and when it's time to divide the loot, one turn to the other one and say, well, instead of you getting 50-50, I can take 52, you get the rest. And the one who getting less start to row with him and say, why? He said, well, I brought the breaking, the tools. You the only one looking out. So that's what's going on. Because when Chavez reigned in Exxon, and with what Exxon was doing, then the U.S. started applying sanctions on Venezuela. So Exxon is not an ordinary entity. You know that Exxon is an arm of U.S. imperialism. Exxon, you know Exxon actually, I was told this, that there was some meeting that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is going to, some official meeting, and Exxon said, we have to come to the meeting, we could come, we have an ambassador. They actually have a representative to participate in the meeting.
You see, one of
You ever heard anything like that?
One of the questions we have to ask ourselves, when Pompeo came to Ghana,
Yeah.
and he met the hierarchy of the PPP, what commitment did he extract out of them? And we cannot get that kind of information. Now, because the PNC was on this crusade,
Yeah.
a 5-month crusade of stealing elections, you had all kinds of rats. The Trinidadians helped to pay the PPP's expenses during the time. And now we got to give them back, pay back time. So, you know, that 5 months,
Look at that.
that 5 months have done so
Yeah.
much harm.
Damage it did to this country.
Harm in the sense that it has destroyed the credibility of the APNU
Yeah.
and the PNC
Yeah.
and the AFC.
Yeah.
They have never ever said, look, you know, we should really pull back now.
Yeah.
Even Bolsonaro, he took 2 days
And
to say,
yeah.
to come out to say, well, look, I am going to play by the rules. He hasn't yet conceded or complimented Lula. But he, after that very ambiguous statement he made, that 2-minute statement,
Yeah.
he made after 48 hours and said the people were, you know, worked up and so on. He went to the Supreme Court and he said to the judges, look, this thing is gone. We are not prepared to do that.
No.
We're still fighting
Yeah.
5 months after we have learned.
Yeah.
And the damage we have done
Done.
to ourselves
Yeah.
in this case.
You know, Chris, you know this. We contested 2 elections at the regional level.
We meaning OVP.
Oh, the OVP, sorry, Organization for the Victory of the People, yes. And we told the members of the electorate, we said, give your presidential vote at the top of the ballot paper to APNU AFC and give us a regional vote. Because if we win the region,
Do you regret that?
well, dynamics shift and things, when we look back, it's not a question of regretting as such because, Lenin once said something, sometimes those who are in the vanguard or who initiating change and leading, we have to make sure that we're not so far ahead that when we look back, the people are miles and miles away from us. So you don't want to rain on people's parade, right? Because everybody wanted APNU AFC. So you got a small organization like the OVP coming along and said, no, who are you, right? So they went for APNU AFC, APNU plus AFC, and it turned out good. When we were in the
Building a
Ashman building, and I saw what took place. And history is not going to record me on the wrong side, right? I did not want to see at them the return of the PPP, right? But the PPP won the elections. The PPP won the elections. You had members, you had Mr. Ramchatan and Katius telling this country that you had Russians come in the country and some Libyan and pulling things. If you found these people,
Why not do something about
why
it?
you didn't parade them in front of the press and the nation? And you still want people to believe you and you keep referring to the government as an installed government.
But I still ask
Then
you.
tell us who installed them.
I still ask you.
Yeah.
I still ask you whether, having seen what the PNC and its and the AFC did in the 5 months following the elections, whether you still think your call to people, to the electorate, to support APNU AFC at the top of the ticket, whether that was the correct one.
No, here, the reason we did say when we were telling people to vote for them at the top and give us the region is because we were saying that they are not going to bring about the change that you really want. Good, but you want to answer to that? If we look back, we were wrong. It's not a question that we were wrong, but now, if 2025 come for the election in 2025, would we take that position? No way. No way we'll be taking that position. We have decided on that. The National Directorate, we've decided that 2025, no way.
We would have seen in the press recently, it was widely reported, Letitia James, Attorney General for the state of New York, has taken a very fervent, perhaps one-sided line on events in Guyana. Have you seen that? Have you seen
Yeah,
it?
I saw some clips that were circulating and came to me in the WhatsApp, and I read her statement and saw the town hall, or I
Yes.
listened to town hall meeting and so, and Hakeem Jeffries
Mhm.
and some others, yeah. Because that constituency, there are a lot of Guyanese, you know. and-
Yes. You mean it's their own politics
Yeah.
at play. But when you think about it, when you see it, did you feel that Attorney General James was, as a leading public figure in the United States of America, taking a line that did not seem to be sufficiently balanced? Did you see it as something of an encroachment into Guyana's domestic issues?
Interesting, it is. You know, we have to be principled and consistent. You accuse Sarah Ann Lynch and the Western countries, the British ambassador and the Canadian High Commissioner then, I think she's returned. You accuse them and the EU representative
Yes.
of interfering. You even went as far as accuse Mia Mockley and others from of meddling in our affairs. And there you are, right, enlisting the support of an official, right, in the U.S. Political
Administration.
system, in the administration, to get involved in Guyana's affairs. That's, I mean, you know, there is no, it's just, it shows you again, it's nothing principal, so it's all about ethnicity and so, but these very persons, including that same woman, they were there when a lot of Africans from the motherland, as well as Haitians, were being expelled under the Democratic Party. So
Yeah.
this thing, the Democratic Party sent home under Obama. These are things people don't know. Under Obama, more Africans were sent back to their country,
That's correct.
right, than under George Bush.
That's correct. That's correct.
It's there.
It could be that more were coming as well. But
That's true.
In terms of
That's
absolute
true.
numbers, it
With
is
numbers,
correct.
yeah.
And
So,
it has always been said.
I believe that I'm opposed to any any country external, whether it's a country, organization, a corporation, institution, interfering in the domestic affairs of a state that is supposed to be, at least in the book, sovereign and independent. We have lost that. This country, this is a captured state. This is a captured state. And I don't think, I think the political leaders are happy to go along with that. They're not going to challenge
Well,
anything.
This is the thing you're saying is a captured state. We submit ourselves. We grovel.
Well, all right.
We grovel to
We do.
ExxonMobil.
Yeah, yeah.
We didn't have
We
to
do.
capture us.
Yeah.
We submitted ourselves to them.
Well, it's a neo-colonial entity, and I use captured in the sense that, well, we allowed it. We allowed it.
Yes.
Yes, we grovel. I remember, I will tell you something that I saw during the 2015 election, when you had to go up, we went to GCOM to sign the accord and things and so. And the then U.S. Charge of Affairs, Brian Hunt, came in. And there were people from, I saw this with my own eyes, and our representative, tumbling over the chairs to go and shake Brian Hunt's hand. And you know, those persons were from where? From APNU. Going to shake Brian Hunt's hand. And then you're saying, the IRI, the International Republican Institute,
yes,
that is affiliated with the Republican Party, they were the people who sponsored the Vote Like a Boss campaign. They pushed the Vote Like a Boss campaign. That wasn't interfering in our affairs. Even Roy at the time came out swinging at it. You remember?
Electoral reform.
You could tell me.
No, but I am in the fortunate position
Yeah.
in relation to Plain Talk, where I ask the questions.
Yeah.
I don't have to answer them.
No, but you know, Chris, recently I think it was Mike McCormack from the Ghana Human Rights Association, and some, I think, article, I think y'all mentioned it, you did.
Article 13,
Article
yeah.
13. Article 13, yeah. Article 13, yes. And the Guyana Human Rights, y'all said, both organizations said that it's time, and somebody else said it, it's time we get rid of this arrangement we got with the three commissioners from the PPP and 3 commissioners from
Absolutely.
thing. We have, but you remember some time ago, we said that, you know, we were talking about it, and people said, well, oh, it's not going to happen, but it's good that you raised it, you pointed it out, and we fully support that. We can't have this dysfunctional thing going on all the years,
But-
with this wrangling between with APNU AFC over the electoral process, and then, right? I mean,
What people need to be reminded
yeah,
is that model, the Carter Price model for the GCOM, was for 1992 elections
1992.
alone.
Alone. Look at that.
But you know, the PPP and the PNC have
Yeah.
found it convenient
Yeah,
where they place the PPP. Now the president, there's nothing in the Constitution that says the president chooses from his own party. What the Constitution says, the leader of the opposition recommends and the president
And the
appoints persons from the parliamentary opposition.
yes,
As far as the nominees of the president are concerned, it is any 3 persons. But look what happened. One day something happens, next day Roe, who had started to take something of a kind of an
Yeah.
open mind,
yeah,
suddenly fills the gap
yeah,
for the PPP,
yeah.
and he has gone quiet.
At different, yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah, because he has he replaced Bibi Shadi.
I don't know, and you know, look,
We have to dismantle that. We have to get rid of it.
But not only, you know, we all blame the PNC and we blame Mingo and Lowenfield. But had Claudette Singh done her work, you were
Yeah.
at the building.
Yeah,
Had Claudette Singh not hidden herself in that room,
yeah, upstairs in the top floor.
that impasse would have been brought on
Yeah.
end
Yeah,
a long time ago.
yeah.
So she's now a heroine
Mhm.
to the Americans and to everybody
Mhm.
else. But she bears a heavy responsibility.
But at first they had people who were saying, well, Claudette, there were people in the very opposition who were defending Claudette Singh in the early days.
Mhm.
And then suddenly they turned on her when she took a different
Now you
position.
know how Guyana politics is.
Yeah, so you know, because they were saying, oh, Claudette Singh, you know, it's because it's a woman and she's being treated like this. You got women's group who came out. You remember some women a number of women wrote some letter and signed it defending Claudette Singh.
What do you think?
But we got to dismantle that. It isn't working.
Apart from that, you have that's a constitutional issue, of course.
Yes, of course it is.
That's in our, I think it's Article 161.
Yeah.
But you have this use of electoral reform. And I represented Article 13 along with Yog Mahanio, Dr. Yog Mahanio, who in fact walked out at a certain point because you had ministers taking people's picture and then putting it on whatever they put it on. I don't know.
I was
But I thought it was unfortunate that the Attorney General was saying that, look, these reforms are to avoid, are linked to what Mingo did. This is, you don't personalize legislation like that.
Yeah.
You try
You're
to
right.
you modernize legislation, you avoid abuses, you make elections should make it possible for people to make it easier for people to vote and exercise their democratic right. It should modernize it. Look,
Yeah.
in Brazil,
Yes.
in Brazil, you had what? How many?
But-
About 120 million, something like that, approaching 120 million.
Mhm.
And in 2 hours,
Yes.
you had,
Yep.
and look at the size of
Results have
Guyana.
come. Yep.
In 2 hours, you knew the results of the Brazilian
Yep, yep.
elections.
Because in this this one here, in no time, we saw the results in terms of
Absolutely.
how much percentage Lula was leading by.
Yeah. Well, Bolsonaro started in the lead. Do you
Yeah.
remember?
Yes, he started.
Because in the southeastern,
Yep. Very strong.
he is strong,
Strong
in,
there, yeah.
in those poor areas.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, a man who
But you
hates
think-
black people,
Yeah.
who
Made
hates,
terrible statements
who
about women.
hates the Indians,
The indigenous
the
people.
indigenous
Yeah,
Indians.
yeah.
He said he would eat them,
Yeah.
and they voted for him.
Voted for him. Human, you deal with the human. Conrad Lawrence wrote the book, The Naked. Is it Naked? Ape?
Naked Ape, that's correct. Yes, yeah.
Humans are the human being is a puzzling entity. Very, you know.
Perhaps more of an ape than a human.
Yeah, you know. I mean, under Lula, the Workers' Party of Brazil, that government, the government led by the Workers' Party of Brazil, moved more than 30 million Brazilians
Out of poverty.
out of poverty.
Yes. It
Out
was-
of poverty.
It was a remarkable performance. He said he would do it
Yeah,
again.
yeah. But these things, you know, you look at it. I'm not comparing Lula to the case of Jesus. But look, I mean, look what you had Jesus when he entered the city. People were singing Hosanna, and you know, welcoming him and all of that, right? And look what he did. I mean, if you're a Christian and you follow the scriptures, you believe he healed the sick and the dumb and the deaf and the dead.
Well, you see,
And yet, when they had to choose between him and a common criminal like Barabbas, they said, give us Barabbas. So, you know, this is nothing new. It's nothing new.
So what do you think of the electoral reforms that have been advanced by the PPP? To what extent? It doesn't deal, you know, I posed a couple of questions to Mr. Nandalal.
Well, I know you've been,
He didn't answer a couple of them.
Article 13. I
Yeah.
know you all had meetings and so
Well, but look, he
And-
didn't touch campaign financing. And so you
which
have...
is important.
is
Very,
one of
very
the
important.
I mean, you have all these rogues and thieves.
Yes. Yeah.
There is absolutely no accountability.
Yeah.
What is the Financial Intelligence Unit doing about the money laundering that takes place among our political
No, they don't
parties?
deal with that. They don't deal with that. They bother with a small person who just
Oh yeah,
elected.
you can't go and open a bank account
bank
because
account.
you haven't got proof
Yeah.
of address.
Yes.
You're living
And
with
that-
your son or your daughter.
That's what they bought. But you were right, because you know there's an interesting thing. A company a construction company built a school, and they got all these structural deficiencies and so, but yet they're awarded a contract
Yes.
to build another school. And the reason for that, when they got that for that contract, that was under the previous regime, government. And now they got this one to do the other school. But it shows you the reason is because the big business people, they give money, they have envelope, they give money to both parties. So
Well-
whichever party gets into office, they must give them back
Well,
in
I think-
contracts, concessions, something.
I
That's
think-
how it, that's what the big business people are the, are the
I
winners.
think
And who
our-
are the losers? Those who went to the vote to
They
put
give
their
only
figure.
they give only because they at one time the PPP was a working class party. Jagan used to talk about socialism and so on. The middle class, the leaders of the private sector and so on, would not want to identify with the PPP.
Yeah.
Now they would go to bed with the PPP
Uh-huh.
and oppose. And we get back to where we started, and oppose a living wage.
Yes. Yeah, the private sector, you know, for example, since the minimum wage, this increase, this minimum wage has been badly. You know, a lot of places, when you go, you talk to pump attendants at the gas,
They don't
the
get
gas
it. They
station
don't
and
get
so.
it. They don't get it.
They said, no, we haven't got security guards, few security services that paid money. Many of the security guards said, no, we didn't get anything. And nobody, who's enforcing it? Who is making sure?
Nobody.
The unions to enforce this. So if one worker turns up and say, well, you know, the minimum wage, she's a troublemaker. He or she is a troublemaker, they'll be sent home.
We did a study the other day. Well, we have done a food basket, Raman Mukre, that is over $120,000, which would be your take-home pay. But just leave that for now.
120.
Yeah, 120. I had an interesting.
We had said during the election that anyone who's earning $100,000 and under, don't let them pay income tax. Just
that's
let
it.
them deduct the NIS.
Yeah. But you know, I had a conversation with a policeman
Yeah.
a few evenings ago. This is a man who's been in the police force for 7 years. He has a 3-year-old child in kindergarten, and he has an infant. So his wife is a stay-at-home mother,
Yeah.
and his take-home pay is $88,000.
What?
And he said,
88,000.
Mr. Ram, some days I don't know what I'm going to have to eat. A policeman
Yeah.
who is defending, who is a member
Yeah.
of a force that is defending
Yeah.
all these big shots.
It's sickening. It is.
It cannot be right.
No,
Something
it's
is wrong.
radically wrong. Radically wrong. Yeah. Yeah. And they're just insensitive there. Nobody seemed to
They
care.
don't care.
They don't care. They don't
This
care.
so-called this is a government
No.
that cares. And you know,
$88,000.
yeah. Poor
And then
fella,
you want to know why the police take,
Yeah.
pull over and take.
You know, I had Ramatar here,
Yeah.
President Ramatar, a couple of weeks ago. We did a survey.
Yeah.
Every single supermarket but one, from Sheriff Street right up
Yes.
to Enmore, is owned by a Chinese. Every single one. All our village shops are being taken over, our economy. Who cares? And you know, we sometimes think, oh, don't worry, these are foreigners. No, many of them have all the rights like you and I do. And in fact, probably more. They buy the choicest pieces of land. Choicest pieces of land.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Yeah.
We have something in our Companies Act that says no external company may get any interest in land except by a license from the president. How come Exxon and
Yes.
all these foreigners
Yeah.
are building in this country?
Correct.
Who gave them?
Yeah.
Is it that the law doesn't matter anymore?
I know people who came into this country and applied for land and got through in less than 3 months.
Yeah.
And you got Guyanese went waiting for 15 years. You know, waiting for land and can't get it.
But what is the OVB doing about all of this?
You know, good question.
It's easy for you to come here and criticize.
No, I'll tell you no. I'll tell you something. First of all, you know, we have always made it clear we are not a traditional political party. We participate in election, but we don't define ourselves as
Well, I'm not talking about elections. I'm
no,
not
no,
talking
no.
elections
No,
or
because
politics.
people think that elections gone, you don't like the parties, you don't hear. We do a lot of community work. We do a lot of work in the community, helping people with literacy programs and things. So we do what we could do, and to raise people's consciousness. That's what we focus on. We're trying on some agricultural project with some youths who have skills, but they're unemployed. That's the type of thing we're doing. Now, we, apart from your program here, that you invite people like myself and other, you know, members of small parties and so, we don't get the coverage. Even Mr. Kissoon pointed that out, right? We write letters, sometimes we send it to the press, right? And it's not carried. Let me tell you what happened. October the 6th, last October the 6th, is the anniversary of the Air Cubana bombing. That was our 9/11.
Yes.
Do you know that that thing passed? Nothing happened. Neither the government, I think the Prime Minister went up to the university, they laid some writ and went away. They didn't, no, nothing official, right? It passed, right? Because nobody want to raise this issue and keep it alive. Because the United States, an agency of the United States government, sanctioned that bombing in 1976.
Yeah, we know that.
You know that, you know good. Now, do you know that a number of Caribbean groups, the Caribbean Pan-African Network, of which I'm part of, and the Barbados Cuba Friendship Society, and many, the Caribbean Chapter in Defense of Humanity, the Movement for Social Justice in party in Trinidad, groups as far as Martinique's part, drafted a document to put before the UN that October the 6th would be declared the International Day in the fight against terrorism. That document was signed, the OVP, we signed it, all those things, we sent it out to the press, other places carried it. Barbados published it, we sent it to the newspapers here, and not one of them published it, not one. Do you know Barbados didn't lose one person on that flight, and
Okay.
yet Barbados is keeping that thing going, and Guyana, that lost 11 Guyanese, we are silent. Because we were afraid of the Americans. We don't want to antagonize the Americans.
Let me ask you, however, is this problem too big for a party like yours?
Look, you're talking about the...
Well, generally.
Yeah, but you know...
The absence of the PNC, which seems to be its own internecine war
Look,
with itself.
you're dealing with two behemoths here, and the people are really, you know, it's not going to be, this is the reality we have to face. You're not going to smash these two entities like that, but they
It's
come
not
to...
only smashing, though, it's a question of pointing out the injustices, the improprieties, the illegality.
Well, I like to use the word of Kwame Ture and talk about smash the Democrat Republican, because there'll come a time when the contradictions, these things will become so antagonistic and you'll get a clash.
But we have
But-
those contradictions already.
Yep,
You have a
but it
contradiction.
reaches a point,
boiling point.
a boiling point, and people will have to act. Now, the difference with us is we are growing.
Please wind up.
Yeah.
No, go on. The
We are a
difference-
growing organization. We are growing. We may not have the financial resources and thing, but we are growing. And a lot of people this coming over to us.
Mr. Gerald Pereira, thank you very much again for appearing on Plain Talk. It's
Yeah.
always a pleasure talking with you. It was a pretty wide range of topics we covered.
Yeah. And thank you for having me, Chris. And,
Always a
you know,
pleasure.
for giving the smaller parties a voice.
Operators and viewers, Thank you and good night, and I'll see you next week.